Everyone, we are back.
What's up?
We've got a triumvirate today. I like it.
A triumvirate.
This is episode 72. Episode 72, and we're talking thrash metal today with the mighty Scott Waters of No Life Till Meta Records and Steve Gaines, but not Steve Gaines from Leonard Skinner. But that's okay. Abattoir was killer band, and we're going to talk about new recent projects and all the other stuff that he's been doing. And I'll start out with a shout out because I know Scott says he's got a shout out too. I don't want to exclude him, but any of you guys ever heard of Violet Smith?
Violet's the color?
Violet. No, not Violet Smith. No, that would be a name that would be remembered. No, Violet Smith was 107 years young. She passed away yesterday. She was deemed the world's fastest female drummer.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's very interesting gal. In fact, during the World War II, she put out a decree to all the big bands in the world to hire great female musicians. So take that, feminism. Back in World War II, we had a gal that was leading the way. And so check her out, man. She's pretty fantastic. She's kind of like a female version of Buddy Rich.
Is that right?
And there's a video that I was going to try and post. It's Frances Carroll, Frances with an ES, and then Carol with 2 R's, and her Coquettes. And you should check it out because it features Violet doing a massive drum set, including these high-mounted toms and bongos and every other such thing. So it's pretty awesome. That's cool. And condolences to John Perez and his wife Sylvia. She lost her mom a few days ago, and it's a kind of a somber thing. John has been on the show a couple of times. We know him as the mighty guitarist and brain trust of the Solitude Eternus, and he's got some other stuff pending, but life sometimes gets in the way, and so our condolences go out to him. But on a brighter note, Scott, what you got, buddy?
That Dross vinyl was out.
Yes. Yeah.
Just got it in the mail like maybe an hour ago. Mailman knocked on the door.
Really?
Brand new Madras and vinyl. Finally, we've been waiting for this one for a couple months later than the CD. So yeah, it's out. Charring the Rotting Earth.
What a killer title, and the album is crushing. I mean, it's just a mixed bag of great stuff. So Steve,
very progressive thrash metal.
Steve, you got anybody you want to say hello to or shout out to?
Wow, I'm caught off guard. Let's see. Everybody who is trudging through this pandemic, and we're in month, what, 300?
300, I think. You're right. Close.
Yeah. Everybody who's battling their way. Just hang in there, guys. There's light at the end of the tunnel. All right?
What's up, Terry?
Hey, Terry. What's happening?
Yep. Well, good. Today we kind of have an enigmatic subject called thrash metal.
Oh, I remember that.
Thrash metal. What is thrash metal? Scott, I know you're a wild, crazy historian, and you harken back to the roots of where thrash came from. Anybody have any ideas or opinions on where thrash metal eventually came from?
Yeah, thrash metal is the mix in this. It's the speed and the aggression and the attitude of punk mixed with heavy metal. That's what thrash metal was. It was all about speed and violence. That's thrash metal.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to note too that and some people come in to the heavy metal side of things through heavy metal, the hard rock heavy metal side, and I sort of came through the punk side, because I was always looking for something faster and more aggressive. Right. How about you, Steve? What do you think?
Kind of the same thing that Scott said. I recall, I think I'm a little older than Scott there, so the gray beard kind of shows it, but I recall being a fan of so many, already playing in metal bands. And all the bands we liked started slowing down and playing softer stuff, and Priest did Point of Entry and all of that. And it's like, why don't they just stick with the aggressive stuff? And a collective, it just seemed to happen in the Bay Area as well as Los Angeles at the same time. All of a sudden, everybody picked up speed. And like you said, brought in the punk element as well, the kind of the less than perfect element, if you will. And it just became this thing. It exploded long about 83, 84. People say 85, but it had to start somewhere. And it was amazing to look around because my people that were older than me. I'm sorry, I have a tendency to ramble. You guys are in for it, but
ramble on, as Zeppelin would say. Ramble on.
People that I would talk to who were older than me, they would say like, "Oh, yeah, nobody cares about that stuff." And then when this exploded, it's like kind of like, "See, told you so." I'll give you an example. We were watching Motley Crue playing at the Whiskey. I think it costed $2 to get in. It was on a weeknight, and there was a couple hundred people in the place. You know, not sold out, but pretty packed. This is early on. Iron Maiden's doggone it, Wrathchild, the video came onto the big screen, and the place exploded like Maiden was in the room and just screaming. I remember watching all the oldsters around me going, "Wow, people really like this stuff." Yes, we do. And then, of course, it got heavier and faster from there. And here we are today in what I guess became thrash metal.
Yep.
Awesome.
I actually pulled this one last week, and I'll show it to you again because this was my like thrash metal. Oh my gosh, was this?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And why wouldn't it be? That's great.
Oh man. And that's the one with Steeler on it, right?
Yeah, it's got Steeler, and it's got Steeler and Bitch and Demon Flight, Pandemonium, Malice, Rat, but then it's got that one song from Metallica, Mattill.
Right, and that's with James just singing and Lloyd Graham playing guitar, right?
Exactly. And what's the guy's with Don McGovney, what's his name? McGovney.
Ron McGovney playing bass.
Yeah.
Which on bass, yeah. In any case, yeah. So I was into metal at this point, and my buddy Tony Lee, who played in a band called Heathen's Rage, bought this, and we put it on the turntable, and we're like, "What is that? That's killer!" So of course, that was my discovery of thrash metal. But then soon after, it was, of course, when this came out, that it was just all over. That was like, a whole new world. A song like Whiplash was just like mind blowing in 1983. I mean, we had fast stuff. You had stuff like, Priest did speed metal songs.
Sure.
I mean, even Aerosmith had "Toys in the Attic," which is a fast speed metal song, but it wasn't quite like that.
No, right. It wasn't quite like that. I was immediately drawn to I heard Venom, black metal. I heard some of the German bands, early Creator, when they were still a 3-piece, and all that stuff was fun and good. But man, I was drawn right into the Bay Area thrash scene, Legacy, Exodus, Forbidden Evil. And Violence came a little later, and oh my gosh, I just that Jackson threw a Marshall thing, just it was just the twin guitar attack, it had all the elements that I was looking for. Right. And I know some people will debate the whole East Coast West Coast thing, kind of like the rap game or whatever, but I didn't think anything really held a candle to the West Coast thrash scene. And if you disagree, that's what the comments down below are for. Steve, what say you?
What say me? I can even go further and isolate it from the Bay Area and say that 3 of the big 4 came from Los Angeles.
Exactly.
And people do not want to hear that, but they did. Metallica was from LA here before they moved to the Bay Area. Megadeth, of course, was LA. Slayer, of course, was Los Angeles. And then you had Anthrax.
Right, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I grew up on the East Coast, so New York were a local. Anthrax were a local band for us.
Of course, yeah. So,
but do you include Overkill in the thrash realm of things? Okay,
I do.
Good, yeah, so do I.
Because we all kind of, yes, we do, but there's I don't know why that is, because they very clearly are a thrash band, but I don't know why there's that element of, are they or aren't they? I can't put my finger on it.
There's that fine line people like to draw between speed metal and thrash metal, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Actually, Steve and I had an interesting conversation on Facebook with a guy. What was it, about 2-3 months ago, something like that?
Oh gosh, was that the only one? I think we've had this conversation with several.
I did pull this, so might as well just talk about it while we're at it. But
hey, yes,
yeah, this is interesting. And there's I don't know who that guy on the back, that young guy is on the back there.
Who is that young guy? Holy cow!
Yeah, it's funny. You look at that picture there. There's a reason why I grew a beard. Look at the size of the chin that I've got in that picture. I mean, I look like Jay Leno. It's terrible.
But yeah, there was a guy on Facebook saying that Abattoir was not thrash metal; they were just speed metal. Just speed metal.
He wasn't there.
Yeah, he wasn't there. Hey, we're talking to the guy that would be able to define that. So
Right. And the thing was, it was me and this other guy having the conversation back and forth, and I just tagged Steven. I'm like, give me a break here. I'll just get the guy who freaking created it in there, and he still didn't believe him.
Right. They try and stand their ground, and the funny thing is, the speed metal tag only comes as a retroactive thing, because what was thrash at that point in time, people are calling speed metal now, is what I call Reebok thrash, but that's a whole different story altogether. These one of my bandmates, a guy named Eric Bryan, who we'll get into a little bit later, he finally came up with a definition. This is right after Scott and I talked about it. He said, why does the term speed metal bother me so much? And he says, because when you think of speed metal, you think of a jet engine on a plane. And that's all you get is just one speed, one note, one everything. And he's right. It's shrieking. It drives me nuts. It's like, where is the bounce? Where's the violence? Where is the slap you around? There are videos. You go to like the Discovery Channel and you see pictures of killer whales before they eat seals. They take seals and they slap them with their tail and they knock them like a beach ball. And it's like, that's what music's supposed to do to you. Let's break the foundation down a little bit. Let's not just be all one speed and happy. Otherwise, it's dance at 260 beats per minute. It's terrible.
Yeah. I call that speed for speed's sake.
Right.
Yeah. It lacks songwriting. It lacks hooks, which is, I think, one thing that thrash metal had and retained from heavy metal was hooks.
Right.
And I think speed metal had it too. I just think some of the more modern stuff, metalcore, for example, lacks much hooks. It's more about attitude.
The attitude and the breakdown.
The breakdown,
yes.
yeah, exactly.
Breakdown, which is nothing more than chugging on the E string.
Yeah, the term has also been overused in the wrong way. I've heard Judas Priest called a speed metal band. I have heard Motorhead called speed metal. I've also heard the Scorpions called speed metal. It's like, guys, it's a catch-all. It's like that drawer in your kitchen that has all the junk in it, and you know you can find what you're looking for. It's like, it's terrible. Don't lump me in with that stuff. Put me in the toolbox.
Yeah, put me back where I belong.
I had a feeling we get into this conversation, so I pulled one record that I thought, to me, kind of defines speed metal. Because for me, speed metal, it usually has clean vocals and it pushes more towards the metal side. Doesn't quite have the violence and the punk attitude as it. But I grabbed this one.
There you go. Wow.
But that's a thrashy record.
That it is.
It's a very thrashy record.
Man,
and this
getting dark.
This is from LA, by the way. This is LA.
Of course they are.
Yeah, I remember going to see Deliverance one time, and there was a dude. It was at the Whiskey. Everything happened at the Whiskey, apparently.
Of course.
But I walked into the restroom, and there was one dude in this restroom that I swear was possessed. You know, 'cause obviously Deliverance is a Christian band,
right?
And this guy was possessed. I walked into the room. He started freaking out. He started screaming at me. It's like, go ahead, try what you're going to try. I don't care. Do whatever you're going to do. I'm not afraid of you at all. He cowered and walked away. That's a different story altogether for a different program, but yeah.
Right on. Anyhow, to me, I think of bands. When I think of speed metal, to me, I think of those bands that have those high soaring vocals. You know,
Agent Steel.
Agent Steel comes to mind. Toxic, Realm.
Oh yeah.
But you know, the thing is, Anthrax had the clean vocals too. So I mean, it's like I said, it's splitting hairs.
Yeah.
I think you're right, because Anthrax had some killer riffs and breakdowns, and I mean they were thrash, but then to your point, I mean Fistful of Metal and Spreading the Disease, those were more of a speedier feel. But I mean, Among the Living, that's a complete thrash record. But so I mean, in my opinion, I mean I'm down with the Bay Area and I'm down with the Germans. Those core bands, as far as if you have to define thrash, if you have to pull something out of your stack, what are you going to pull out and say, hey, this is thrash metal right here? What are you going to tell them?
Exodus, Violence,
okay,
Testament.
Yeah,
that's Bay Area.
Yep, there you go. Yeah. What about Pleasure to Kill, or by Creator, or Cyclone, or heck, I don't know, Tankard?
So
Morning After.
We're all about the same age. You guys remember back in the late 80s into the early 90s when bands like Creator and even Sepultura and Possessed and those kind of bands, which to me are just thrash bands, were being called death metal for a while?
Yeah. Because of the gurgling and the gargling, the growlier vocals. Yeah. I guess that's what defined early death metal. But then the Swedes sort of put the frosting on that cake and said, okay, this is what real death metal should sound like. Or Bolt Thrower, or one of those two. But anyway, but it's just a crush. It's a down-tuned thrash, in my opinion.
Right. And I think it was a rebellion against thrash starting to implement elements of funk, which I could never understand. How does funk fit into thrash? But it did. But no, it didn't. But they tried to shoehorn it in. And then death metal was a reaction to that. And that's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. They tried to heavy it down, and of course, funk always was heavy. I thought. I mean, I grew up. My first trip into playing in bands was funk based jazz stuff, and it is down tempo, and it is a structured beat, but I can sort of hear that, but I think there's a ton of elements comprising all this stuff, but to play the raw speed, the thing that I loved about thrash is that there's really no trick to it. You either can play it or you can't. I remember the first time I saw Violence. I mean, I couldn't believe that those dudes were really playing. It sounded as good as the record, and they were playing so fast that it's like their hand was forming a color. It wasn't even a motion anymore. Awesome. It was insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
That guy on the chat, Donald Blair said Vengeance Rising, and yeah, that's a great example of a thrash band, especially that first album, Human Sacrifice, because it reminds me of it has that same youthful energy that Kill 'Em All had, where it was raw, sloppy, messy, and just guttural and fast, ridiculously fast.
But didn't they sort of bleed over into the Possessed style, where that was deemed sort of a death metal, sort of? Even though they were thrash?
By the third album, they did.
Yeah.
But on Human Sacrifice, it was just raw and guttural. And all that stuff was written by Glenn Rogers.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Glenn who he played Steel Vengeance and Hyrax and Heretic. You guys been in everybody.
Yeah, Glenn has played with absolutely everybody except for me.
Oh man,
we talked about doing something.
Oh, is that a shout out?
Hey Glenn, what's up? If he's watching,
hey, Glenn, please play us something with Steve.
Yeah.
I know you guys shared a bass player for a little while, Anger is Art, and he was in Heretic at the same time, I believe, and he was also playing bass in Bitch for a while.
No, actually, Angelo left. He left Anger's Art. We knew it was coming. He left Anger's Art to go to the Reunited Bitch. So the Reunited Heretic. But we never did cross over and share him. He was already he left at that point in time. But we continued to play in Bitch together for a little bit.
Just as a connection, I also played. I sang for Once Dead for 2 years, and Angelo was our bass player as well.
Did you go do that Switzerland festival?
I did do the Switzerland festival with them. Yeah.
I did not realize it, Scott. Wow. I'm sorry. I did not even realize that. My mistake. How about that?
I sang with them for 2 years until I got I call it the left foot of fellowship out of the band. But
what we call fierce family.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. So no Kevin Bacon references, because I sort of feel like the 7 degrees of whatever. Anyway,
so LA is a petri dish. Believe you me, everybody has played with everybody, and there's definitely less than 6 degrees separation.
So speaking of LA these days, what do you got going on, Steve? I know Anger is Art has been around for what, 8 to 10 years or more?
16 years now, believe it or not.
16 years, gosh.
Yeah. Came into existence in 2004. Well, here's what's going on. Like everybody else, we're shut down because of COVID. It was actually a blessing in disguise for us, and I'll tell you why. We had the next album written. We were going to start recording in April, so we were ready to go. And then, of course, COVID hits along about March or so. Everything shuts down. The last rehearsal we had, we were in pre-production. Eric, our bass player, once again, who I've talked about, he says, I've got some ideas. I just need a guitar to work out. So as we left rehearsals, here, take my guitar with you, just track it and get it back to me when you get it back to me. COVID happened. I haven't seen the guitar since. He went on a writing binge. We've got an entirely different album altogether now because of that. So, and I look back on it and I realize, man, if we would have done the album that we had finished at the beginning of 2020, it would have been a really, really good record, but not as good as the one is turning out. So we're back. Yeah, we're back in pre-production right now, getting ready to start. Hopefully, getting ready to start tracking along about January, February or so.
So what's gonna happen to those older tracks? The ones
they're there. They're still there, but and who knows? We may actually put them together and see what
B-sides.
We've never had B-sides. That's why. That's why we're kind of thinking, okay, well, these are good, but then it gets into budget. Do we want to spend money mixing? Sure. So yeah, you know. But yeah,
we know a guy, Steve. We know a guy who can mix and master.
I know that guy too. Look at that. Yeah. Look at well,
on the recent No Life Till Metal comp, there's a Anger is Art song on there. That's kind of like a B-side, wasn't it? A B-track.
What it was, and I'll explain. I think I explained this to you. If I never did, I'll tell you the story. The guy who is producing us now, a guy named Ron Sandoval, he and I got together and we listened to our album. Yeah, there you go. We listened to the our Hubris Incorporated album shortly after we released it, and he starts talking. He goes, "Okay," he says, "I think if you were recording, you probably wanted to do this, but you didn't get this result." There you go. He says, "You didn't get this result," and I said, "Yeah, that's correct." He says, "And you probably wish you would have done this." Yeah, that's correct. And then you probably wish you would have done that. So he says, "Look," he says, "come in, record one song with me." He says, "Let's see if we're compatible in the studio." And that happened to be that song. We recorded it. We re-recorded it. It's actually a reissue of a song from a Calvis and Fuhrer album in 2006. But we never did anything with it. So Scott has it.
Yep, it's on our free promo that we gave away. So it's just free promotion. In any case, there it is. Yeah.
There you go. Fun stuff.
I got another one. Maybe you can tell me a little bit of this one, because I don't think I've ever heard you talk about this one at all.
Oh wow!
On the wall, literally right above my head. Yeah, let's talk about it. Short story long. I will say this: there is a lot of communication amongst all the guys in Bloodlust right now. Nothing will probably happen on the live front because everybody's scattered across the country. One guy's in New Orleans, the other guy's in Milwaukee. So at any rate, we're talking about possibly doing something, and we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen with that. COVID has locked everything down. But Bloodlust is a great band. I was actually a founding member of the band in 1983 and left to join Abattoir after the Guilty as Sin album started to be recorded. So if you could dig into the original master recordings, way deep on those tracks somewhere, you can still hear my vocals, the one that Guy Lord sang on. For the record, anything you see on that album where it says lyrics written by Bloodlust, they were mad at me for leaving. So that was a way of giving me credit without giving me credit.
I've heard that story many times.
Oh, yeah. But no, great band. I was able to get back together with them. We've gotten together and done a few things since. And great players, great guys. So, yeah, good stuff.
So, yeah, you just don't hear people. I mean, when it comes to you, I hear people talk about Abattoir and I hear people talk about Anger is Art, but I never hear anybody mention Bloodlust.
Yeah, I think it kind of got forgotten because the Wild Rags label was not terribly huge. It was lightly distributed by comparison to Metal Blade, so not a lot of people even knew it was there. King Fowley from Deceased did a reissue of the records probably 7, 8, 10, 12 years ago, whenever it is. And, it did okay, but, they're out there, but I don't know if a lot of people really put two and two together until if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I have a weird story, Scott, since I pulled this off the little rack that I had in front of me. I carry a few of these around with me because I got a few from Rob when we did that, the Haltham Metal Fest. Like a month or so ago. We actually have live music here, Steve. It's really interesting because there's spots on the floor, and you can only imagine you're at a metal show and you're 6 feet apart, and everybody is sort of moshing in place. It's kind of an oddball thing.
So it looks like a Joe Biden rally, in other words.
It does, basically, but I digress because I don't want to. It's like I told a guy the other day: the less we talk about politics, the better friends will be. And
exactly.
But anyway, I heard a guy drive up next to me at a vendor's place. I was picking up some irrigation parts for my guys today, and he was blaring some. I don't know. It was bad. It was Hot Topic core drivel, and I thought, man, this guy really needs metal. He really needs something else. So I handed him this out of the clear blue. I says, "Oh, you like metal? Oh yeah, I like metal." I says, "Here, try this on for size." And he sat in his truck while I went in and got parts and came back out, and he was still sitting in his truck listening to this. So thank you very much. And to whoever you are from Mean Green Landscaping, you're welcome. But but I digress. So, but I do that all the time, and it's the thing is somebody did kind of the same thing with me, and they just like they handed me a Sex Pistols record. I had never heard of this. It was a guy from California, and I'd never heard of the Sex Pistols. This is what 80. This is like in college or something. And anyway, or way before college, and all of a sudden now I'm hooked. I've sort of found the path of how to reach where I was trying to go with metal. I found something snotty and aggressive and not perfect by any means. And we all know that. Never mind, the Pollux is not perfect, but it's perfect for what it is. So so what basically introduced you to metal? I mean, what caused you? I mean, what were you listening to as a kid, Steve? Something that could have formed your opinion. I mean, we just had this discussion. I mean, I was listening to Deep Purple and the things that our parents called heavy metal at the time. What were you listening to back in the day?
Well, let's see. Starting, I mean, we had Monkees records, we had Paul Revere and the Raiders, stuff like that. When my sisters got to be about high school age or so, one of them brought home Led Zeppelin 3. Then she brought home Led Zeppelin 2. My other sister brought home, and this is where it all changed. I was 6 years old. It was 1971. Tells you how old I am. She brought home Black Sabbath's brand new Master of Reality album. Done. Here I am, 49. How many years later? 49 years later, and not much has really changed. I mean, I still listen to that record at least once a month. It's untouchable. It really is. To me, it's the perfect Sabbath album, not because it's my introduction, but because look at the songs. Oh my gosh, it's just phenomenal. Went from there, went to some of the American bands, got into Aerosmith really heavy. And Scott, I think you and I, it's funny, you posted that picture on Instagram. And you guys you showed that magazine that had Queen and Aerosmith on the cover.
Right.
I forget the whatever the magazine's called.
Bruce Magazine, yep.
There you go. But I got that when it came out. I got that on the rack. It was just randomly in a news rack. And it was like, it taught me everything I didn't know about Aerosmith. But yeah, it was always about guitars to me. It was always about, oh gosh, who was it? Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Ted Nugent. Then we discovered Van Halen. And then here it comes. Long about October of 1978, my brother starts playing in bands. And a buddy of his, a guy named Brian McKinley, shows up. He goes, dude, he says, here's a band you need to listen to. It will change your life. It was the current, but brand new Judas Priest Stained Class album in 1978.
Yes.
42 years later, I can't get away from that record. It's the soundtrack of my life. It really is. In fact, quick story, and I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, and I apologize for that. And here we go.
Needed. Go ahead.
One of the things that I do is I play in a Judas Priest tribute band called Early Priest, and I know Scott's aware of this. It's only Judas Priest from 1974 through 1979. We're only playing the first 5 albums. Incredible stuff. So our vocalist, a guy named Javi Colon, was at NAMM this year, and he goes to the EMG booth. In fact, I'll show you proof right here. He goes to the EMG booth and he meets Richie Faulkner. So they get a picture taken. He gets my autograph for me. It's all nice. And he says, so is you a Priest fan? And he goes, yeah. He says, not only am I a Priest fan, he says, but I play in a band. He said, we only play Priest songs from the 70s. Richie Faulkner does it, posing for photo. We only do songs from the 70s. Just double took on me. Goes, wow, I got to tell Rob.
Wow.
So, I mean, even
for life.
Even for Priest, right, exactly. I can go home now. Even for Judas Priest, that's something. So that just cracked me up. But yeah, discovered Priest in 78, and the rest is history.
There's very few people who agree with me, but I've always thought that after that Priest, and I don't mean this to sound mean or bad, but they dumbed their sound down on purpose. It wasn't quite the same. It wasn't as complex. They were going for what all those other new wave of British heavy metal bands were doing instead of doing their own thing.
Right.
And it really started with British Steel. And I love British Steel. Don't get me wrong. British Steel still has a lot of that 70s feel to it, but then it's got Living After Midnight and Breaking the Law, which is what I'm talking about when I say the dumbed down sound.
Right.
Well, they were probably going more commercial. And the weird thing about the irony of all this discussion is I overlooked stained glass and I went right to British Steel and moved forward. And then a lot. Someone did the same thing where they handed me stained glass and they said, "You really need to listen to this." And I listened to it, and now it's my favorite Priest record. So, we've all arrived at the same point through different directions. But you're right. I think once they started getting some modicum of success, they just kind of, like you say, dumbed it down, which is a fairly adequate moniker for what they did. Not saying that it's bad, because they were appealing to the masses, which is a good thing for metal. But
no, that's what I mean. It wasn't a bad thing. It was
stained glass is awesome.
Sound. You know, it was a simpler sound, but it was just funny because "Exciter" was the song that made me a Priest fan. I went into a record store and it was in the dollar bins, and I found a copy of "Sin After Sin." You know, the "Sin After Sin" cover with the little temple in the front, and and I bought it for $1, took it home, and I popped it on, and "Exciter" was the first song, and I'm like, it was the wrong record in the sleeve.
Oh, no kidding.
That's why it was in the dollar bin. I didn't really know who Priest was. That was new to me, so I didn't care. And I heard "Exciter," and I just became addicted to Priest after that.
Yeah,
right.
I was a kid, literally a kid, a kid in grade school.
Yeah, look at the big picture here. And here's the thing. I mean, I could talk Priest for hours. Just let the tape roll, and we'll sit here till nighttime. You got to look at CBS. CBS signs them 1977, so they got album in 77. Two in 1978, the live album in 79. They dumped a lot of money into those guys, and they needed to see a return on their investment. So they make their changes. They change drummers. However happened with Les, it was terrible, but it did. But what they did is, I know they had to start going for the hit songs. They kind of went there with Killing Machine. I'm not going to call it Hell Bent for Leather, but they kind of went there with Killing Machine, and then they completed that. If you'll notice one thing about British Steel, there's only one song where it's single note riffs, and it happened to be the big hit. That was Breaking the Law. Everything else is chords. There is not a single song aside from Breaking the Law that is single note. And they went to chords, very, very, very single, and it worked. You get songs like Rapid Fire, my gosh, songs like Steeler. It's got it. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Scott. It's got everything. It really does. It's the perfect album. And then they did Point of Entry, and that was it.
And I like Point of Entry, maybe because I grew up with it, but yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, if I did my top 5 Priest albums, it would not rank in the top 5.
No, it'd be bottom 3 for me, unfortunately.
So Painkiller, nobody.
Oh,
I like
we're still talking about the 70s here. I love.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but even still, I mean, I moved to New Mexico back in the in the late 80s, and Desert Plains became my song over and over again because I was moving here.
I have literally gone out. I drive out to the edge of the desert. You know where where Cabazon is, and the 2 big dinosaurs off the 10 freeway by Palm Springs.
Okay.
Okay, neither one of you know. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know. I'm familiar with it. I used to live in North Hollywood, so I'm familiar with it.
There you go. Okay, so you know where I'm talking about. I've driven out there just to watch the sun come up in the morning, listening to that song. When you watch the earth curve and the sun rise across the desert plains, there's nothing on earth like Judas Priest at 5:30 in the morning in the desert. I'm telling you.
Wow.
Right on, yeah.
So we've talked about Thrash, but now we're talking about Judas Priest. How weird! They must have some foundation in Thrash. I don't know. There's some big time. That's the thing about metal that I love the most, is that it's not generic by any means. There are multiple facets to it, and I think that when you find somebody, like Toxic Holocaust, those guys are a raw 3-piece power trio, ripping, and Joel Grind, we know, is kind of the centerpiece there, and he interchanges parts. He always finds guys that fit, and but he has elements of punk and thrash, and even maybe even black metal. Can we say some of his Yellow Goat stuff is a little darker than most? But that's the thing that I love about metal, is that you can't really lock it down to one particular style of music. It's like a cacophony or a cauldron of sound and what have you. And so I guess that's what really is kind of unique about it. That's why when someone like Violence comes out and it has that weird, Sean Killian has that weird cadence to his voice, and I was so fortunate. I thought I would never see those dudes again. And I was fortunate to see them in January of this year with the Mighty Power Trip and Razor. Now, can you imagine? To me, that's a thrash metal guy's dream gig. And so I saw all three of those bands in the same evening. One almost right after the end. And then Carcass was the headliner. Excuse me, I forgot about them. Them. And but they all were so unique but they were all thrash. They were all they had elements of speed, they had elements of power, they had elements of breaking down, they had everything. And so that's what I really dig about it. In fact, I had to do my homework, Steve, and I listened to that Abattoir record. And once again, I mean, what do you call it? It's thrash, it's metal, it's well, whatever. It's Abattoir. It was a unique thing, and that's why it's still great today, because it just never gets old.
Yeah, it's timeless. Love it. But thank you for that.
I don't know if this is taboo or not, but I'm curious, Steve, if you've heard this or not.
Yeah, I've only heard, believe it or not, I've only heard a few songs. I actually really, really, really enjoy it. And I'm a little bit biased for a handful of reasons. In addition to my brother, obviously, who is one of the, if not the greatest bass players on earth, I've become really good friends with Kevin Gusher. And Kevin's just a sweetheart, man. I really love that guy. And Kevin, here's the thing, without getting into too much detail, Kevin put his name on the line one time in a battle, if you will, where he says, I'm going to side with these Gaines brothers. And I don't care where the chips fall, but he got into a battle with us, and it was just fantastic. So, yeah, they're a great band. I really do dig them. And, looking forward to seeing them when COVID is all over.
Look at this.
The light is shining on it. You got a test pressing of it?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. Leave it to Scott to pull one out of the fires.
The Of Gods and Monsters test pressing. It's coming out on vinyl. I think either late December or early January.
Yeah, early January.
Yeah.
I got a notification that said mine would ship at the end of December and be here in the first part of January. So all right. So if you could pull 3 thrash records off the shelf, any era, modern, old school, mid 90s, whatever, what are you pulling off the shelf?
You know, it's a question I should be able to answer right off the top of my head. I'd have to sit and think about it for a little bit, man. You just stumped me.
Think about it for a second. Think about it for 1 second, and I'll show 2 that I pulled. I just pulled them out of the blue to listen to today.
Okay. So, did we lose down there, or?
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah. Oh gosh, Show No Mercy is fantastic. Okay, here's a question that I can ask you about Show No Mercy. What is people's hang up with Rain and Blood? Why is it that everybody loves the unproduced, unpolished? I thought Rain and Blood was the culmination of perfection. I thought it was just an absolutely perfect record. A song like Altar of Sacrifice, for me, is the greatest Slayer song ever. That's how I judge people. What's your favorite Slayer song? And if they don't say Altar of Sacrifice is in the top 5, then I don't talk to them. It's just like that, because, man, full disclosure, I've ripped off a whole bunch of ideas from that particular song.
I mean, everybody rips off everybody. That's just the way it is.
Of course. Or professionally borrow.
Wasn't it David Lee Roth who said there's only been 4 songs ever written? Everybody else has been ripping them off ever since.
It feels like that.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. And I pulled out this Belgian band that I listened to a lot. Not really popular, but
I love After All. We toured when Abattoir did a reunion tour. We did a few dates with them across Belgium and Holland. They're fantastic.
They're a great band, yeah, and they're just unheard of. Hey, he's back!
Gee whiz, I fell into the cyber void, but yes, I agree. Hey, Steve, just so you know,
you missed this.
Yes, no, I saw it. I was backstage for some reason. I just was hiding, but you know what? I have no problem with Rain and Blood, and that whole thing is so relentless. And I mean, it's like an MMA fight where you get knocked down and then they ground and pound you until you're on the altar of sacrifice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's the recording. It's the fact that it's so dry. There's nothing buried in reverb. I'm not a big fan of reverb. That record is so dry. And I remember reading an interview with Andy Wallace, who engineered the album. He talked about going after the drum tone. He really wanted that dry. So every time you felt that kick drum or you felt those drums, they were punching you in the ribs and cracking them. It's like, yeah, success.
Yep. He shoots, he scores.
Yeah, definitely.
But you asked the question. I just happened to pull those today, so I just grabbed them real quick.
Interesting. I like Steve. I think I'm sort of stumping my own self. But
Right.
Razor, Violent Termination. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to say it, and it's going to drive people insane. But Exodus, Impact is Imminent. I for whatever reason love that record. Who knows? I love all the Exodus stuff. Don't get me wrong, but for some reason that one just has nobody likes it. So maybe that's why I do. I don't know. And then Violence, Eternal Nightmare. Good
I like
grief,
it.
man.
Record.
When Ultimatum was doing our Lex Metalis record, I begged to do Thrash Under Pressure, but couldn't get him to do it.
Well, see, that's a killer song. Judgment or what is it? Something Overruled. Oh gosh, Impact is Imminent. Even is a great song. That whole record is just a rager. But anyway,
it is a good one. I think the formula was changing then. That's the one where Johnny Tempesta was playing drums, right?
Right, and it was a little thin on production, but I mean, especially after Force of Habit, or did that come out? Yeah,
Force of Habit came after.
It came after. Yeah, I didn't know where. I don't think they knew where they were going, but I do really like that record. And of course, who can argue with Fabulous Disaster or the first one? And I don't mind the fact that they re-recorded it. I really don't. I think it sounds kind of cool.
I know why they did it as well. It was a legal thing. Torrid Records has them locked up until hell freezes over, literally. And I get it. Is to take the bat away from Torrid Records. So good for them.
Sure. Well, and Testament did something similar when they did the First Strike, Still Deadly.
Right.
I thought that was really cool. Instead of just throwing out yet another compilation of stuff I've already recorded, let's put out something that re-recordings of killer songs, and I think it worked.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, so anybody else?
Steve, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
When I saw you at the metal, with that that metal thing that we were at a few years ago,
right?
Yeah, in San Diego, you had another band that you were in that I wasn't familiar with, and I didn't have any money, so I didn't buy it. But what is that other band that you were selling? That other CD you were selling?
That was a band that I was in the '90s called Tactics. And that was a great band. That's right. And let's face it, the bottom fell out of metal at that point in time because everybody went to go play funk and whatever. We were still, a lot of those songs were songs that I had written for what I thought was going to be Abattoir's second record. So it's very Abattoir-esque in my book. But it was a great band. The guys have gone on and done great things since and still remain good friends. We get together every once in a blue moon and play. One of the drummers was Rigo Amesco from Agent Steel. Another member who I can't overstate how great the guy is Sin Kidden from Ministry.
Oh wow!
Phenomenal guitar player. He sat in with Anger's Art a couple of times, and when he does, it's just like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to teach you how this song goes. Then he's teaching me in a matter of seconds. It goes like this, right? It's like, dude, you play this better than I do, and I wrote the freaking thing. It's just a fantastic band. So, you know what, Scott? Let me look around. I think I might have a copy. I can get one out to you.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, let me write me some notes here.
Yeah, we were the metal swap meet or something like that, or the
yes, it was San Diego Metal Swap Meet. I'm going to tell you a story about that as well. Thank you and thank Bill for getting us involved with that. I mean, because Israel and everybody are just fantastic people. But that was a soul crushing gig. I call it a gig because of the band that played. Because every time I've shared a bill with any of Matt Harvey's bands, it just rips out my heart. It really does. Because you recall, Exhumed played, and Matt has this habit of being in every band he's in is absolutely incredible. And it drives me nuts because they're all so good. It's like, we've got them this time. We've got them. No, we don't. It's kind of like playing with Death Angel. And some good friends of mine were going to do some gigs with Death Angel. I said, dude, no matter how hard you try, I think they had 2 or 3 shows. No matter how hard you try, you're going to think you have them. They're going to raise their bar and they're going to kick you off stage. It's going to be blow you off stage. It's going to be excellent. But I think he took it kind of personally because he realized, wow, they kicked our ass. Fine. But everybody raised their bar. You raised their bar, because they had to come back and beat you. Death Angel, those bands that come out and play so well live that you look at this and go, man, I've got to go back and rehearse. And Matt Harvey and Entombed are one of those bands. So, yeah, there you go.
Love that band. Love his projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we Ultimatum opened up they opened up for us. I can't remember. We played with keep thinking I want to say Havoc, but it's not Havoc. It's gosh, I'm gonna forget. Super technical band like Voivod, Vector.
Okay, sure. From Arizona, right?
Yeah, they're from Phoenix or something. Tucson.
Yeah, they were from Phoenix, and they were coming through, and we played a show with them in a local club, and we just sat there like, yeah, we quit.
Yeah, those guys shred. I actually booked them in a little rehearsal space here in Fort Worth called the Alamo. That's a really original. But we had some really good gigs there. We had about 100 people. It was Rattlehead, Vector, a local band called Incinerator. It was a perfect thrash gig. 90 sweaty bodies in a small room, and we just raged. Perfect. It was freaking awesome.
That's great.
$5 and away in a cloud of dust. So, and that's the other thing I love about thrash is that there's not a whole lot of equipment. I mean, you plug in and hang on, as the Vicious Rumors used to say, and and it was freaking awesome. So, anyway, well, Steve, thanks for taking the time to join us today. We're sort of we're always unrehearsed and unscripted and unedited. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you did great. And Scott, as always, man, thanks for filling in for Metal Rob. He's busy at his job until the end of the year, and hopefully he'll pop in here and give us some love too. But appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule too, and more power to you, man. I love the fact that here we are. We're in the twilight of our careers.
Some are a little more into the twilight than others.
Right. Well, I think I'm probably older than everybody, believe it or not.
Maybe not.
Because I'm 61 this year, and but you know what? Here I am, and we're still listening to metal, and we're still talking about it. And it's not just it's as we've mentioned many times on the Metal Roundtable. This isn't just like some passing fancy or a fad. Metal is for real, and it's ingrained in us, and it's part of the fabric of our life. And we love it, so we still love it, play it. And check it out and buy stuff, and it's freaking awesome. But thank you for your contributions, man. I love those the Abattoir records. I do have the Angers Art CDs. They're freaking awesome. And Scott, I showed Scott that I was rummaging through as I organize and get squared away. I found is it at the first or the second Ultimatum that I sent you the picture of? Yeah. Man, and of course I had to put it on and listen to it because I couldn't remember what it sounded like. And he says it's sloppy and bad production. I think it's just killer metal. So to each their own, and love it. Go ahead.
Oh, real quick, I just wanted to give a shout out on the way out the door here. For those who have not heard it yet, please do not rob yourself of the opportunity to hear Evil Dead's United States of Anarchy. It is fantastic. And I'm not saying that just because 2 of the members are from Angers Art. It's just a phenomenal record. Really proud of Rob and Albert for the work those guys put into it. It sounds like it could have been done in like 1990 or 1991, but it's done in 2020. It's fantastic. If you haven't heard it, check it out.
I talked to a friend of mine, Brutal Brian Stevens, who happens to be a banker. He's just but he loves metal. He told me about the Evil Dead thing, and he says, I know it's got to be the same band because the logo's the same. And I said, man, I thought those dudes were dead and buried long ago. But once again, here we are. And I think the COVID thing has been sort of a wake-up call. It's forced people to sort of look into themselves, and that stuff, that type of music is ingrained right here. Absolutely. And it's awesome that they put that out, and I've been looking forward to that. So thanks for that shout out.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you got?
I'm looking. I'm like on my phone now. Where's that Evil Dead record at?
Outstanding, man.
Anyway, I would always encourage people. I've worked many a merch table in my career as a metal fan, and I always encourage people to drink one less beer and buy something from the band to actually support them. And you know, downloading's cool as long as you pay for it. And but buying a physical product and just that majesty of that 12.5 by 12 inch piece of paper with a vinyl in it is so awesome. And and so I encourage everyone to support the bands in any way you can. You know, you can still buy stuff online. You can still search it out, download it off of Bandcamp or whatever. But once again, appreciate you, Steve and Scott, as always. Look forward to hanging out with you at some point in time. And you know how we do this, Steve. What we do is we have 3 words we say at the end of the show. Metal will prevail. And so
it's the hand signs, but I'll say the words. So here we go.
Okay, whatever. We don't really do hand signs. I sort of do it because I must be part Italian somewhere in my bloodline. But anyway, until next time, metal will prevail.
Bye, guys.